I am Allison, 32 years old, and I have been with the love of my life, Tom, for 3 incredible years. We were so excited to finally spend Christmas with my family this year. I had been planning everything for months until I got that call from my dad yesterday. His words still echo in my head. "You can't bring Tom for Christmas. Your brother doesn't approve of him." I was shocked. What right did my brother have to decide who I bring home? Let me know where you're watching from and hit that like and subscribe button as I share how my family Christmas turned into a nightmare of prejudice. Growing up in our suburban Connecticut home, I always thought we were the perfect family. My father, James, 62, a respected dentist with a practice he built from scratch. My mother, Martha, 58, a kindergarten teacher who had a way with children that made everyone in town adore her. And my younger brother, Derek, 28, who was always the golden child in our parents' eyes. Our childhood was filled with warmth and laughter. I can still smell the apple pies my mother would bake every Sunday, the scent wafting through our 2-story colonial home with its white picket fence and garden that bloomed with tulips every spring. Dad would take us fishing at the lake nearby, teaching us patience as we waited for the fish to bite, while Mom would pack sandwiches cut into perfect triangles and homemade lemonade. Christmas was always the most magical time in our house. The traditions were sacred and unchanged year after year. On the first weekend of December, we would drive to a tree farm an hour away to select the perfect pine. Dad would lift Derek onto his shoulders to place the star on top, while I handled the delicate glass ornaments passed down from my grandmother. Mom would spend days baking her famous gingerbread cookies, and the 4 of us would decorate them together, laughing at our artistic attempts. On Christmas Eve, we would each open one present before attending the midnight service at our local church. When we returned home, Dad would read The Night Before Christmas as we sipped hot chocolate with tiny marshmallows floating on top. The magic of waking up on Christmas morning running downstairs in our pajamas to see what Santa had brought is something I cherished well into my teenage years. Derek and I were inseparable as children. Only 4 years apart, we built snow forts together, created elaborate make-believe worlds, and defended each other fiercely at school. I taught him how to ride a bike, and he showed me how to catch frogs at the creek behind our house. When he had nightmares, he would crawl into my bed, and I would tell him stories until he fell back asleep. But things began to change as we grew older. When I left for college in New York City, pursuing a degree in marketing, while Derek stayed closer to home at the State University, a distance grew between us. At first, it was just physical distance, but over time, it became something more profound. Our phone calls became less frequent, our conversations more superficial. Meanwhile, Derek remained the center of our parents' universe. When he decided to switch majors 3 times before settling on business administration, they supported him financially and emotionally. When he moved back home after graduation, to save money, they welcomed him with open arms. Whatever Derek wanted, Derek got. I noticed the difference in how they treated us during my infrequent visits home. My accomplishments in the competitive New York advertising world were acknowledged with polite interest, while Derek's new job at a local insurance company was celebrated with champagne and congratulatory calls to relatives. It hurt, but I had built a life I loved in the city, so I tried not to let it bother me. The past 5 Christmases, I had missed our family gatherings due to work commitments. The advertising industry doesn't slow down for holidays, and as someone trying to climb the ladder, I couldn't afford to turn down projects. My parents expressed disappointment each year, but understood. Or at least they said they did. This year was different. I had finally reached a position senior enough to delegate some of my workload. More importantly, I had Tom by my side now, and I wanted nothing more than to introduce him to my family, to share our treasured traditions with the man I loved. We had been dating for 3 years, and it felt like the right time to bring our worlds together. I had called my mother in October to tell her we would be coming. She had sounded genuinely excited, asking about Tom's food preferences and allergies, promising to prepare the guest room with fresh linens. I spent hours searching for the perfect gifts for everyone, including a rare first edition book for my father's collection and handcrafted ornaments from a small artisan shop Tom had discovered. The thought of Tom experiencing our family Christmas, of him becoming part of our traditions, filled me with a sense of completeness I hadn't realized I was missing. I imagined him charming my parents with his warmth and intelligence, bonding with Derek over their shared love of basketball, perhaps even starting new traditions that blended both our backgrounds. For weeks, I had been sharing stories about my family with Tom, painting a picture of the loving home I grew up in, promising him a Christmas filled with love and acceptance. I told him how my mother would probably try to feed him until he couldn't move, how my father would likely challenge him to chess, and how Derek would show off his collection of sports memorabilia. Looking back now, I wonder if I was describing the family I wished we were, rather than the family we had become. The call from my father would shatter that illusion completely, forcing me to see what had been there all along. I met Tom Lee 3 years ago at a photography exhibition in a small gallery in Brooklyn. He was the featured artist, a 34-year-old talented photographer whose work captured everyday moments with extraordinary beauty. I had attended the exhibition with a friend who knew the gallery owner, expecting nothing more than an evening of art appreciation and free wine. Tom stood out immediately, not just because he was the artist being celebrated, but because of the way he spoke about his work with such genuine passion and humility. He wasn't tall, standing at 5'9" with a lean build, black hair that fell just above his eyes, and glasses that kept sliding down his nose when he got excited, explaining the story behind a particular photograph. What struck me most was his smile, warm and reaching all the way to his dark brown eyes, creating little crinkles at the corners. There was something so authentic about him, so present in every conversation, even as people clamored for his attention throughout the evening. I lingered by a particular photograph, a black and white image of an elderly couple sitting on a park bench, their hands intertwined, the woman's head resting on the man's shoulder. There was something about the way he had captured the tenderness between them that moved me deeply. "That's my favorite too," a voice said beside me, and there was Tom standing closer than I expected, smelling faintly of sandalwood and coffee. "The couple has been married for 62 years, he continued. "I met them while shooting in Central Park. They told me they've sat on that same bench every Sunday since they retired 15 years ago. We talked for hours that night, long after most guests had left." Tom told me about growing up in a small apartment in Queens, the son of Chinese immigrants who worked multiple jobs to provide for him and his sister. His father had been a professional photographer in Shanghai before coming to America, where his credentials weren't recognized, forcing him to work in restaurants instead. He had passed his love of photography to Tom, giving him his first camera when Tom was just 10 years old. By the time the gallery owner was pointedly turning off lights, we had exchanged numbers. Our first date was the following weekend, a simple walk through Central Park with coffee in hand. Tom occasionally stopping to take photographs of scenes that caught his eye. I remember being charmed by his eye for beauty in the ordinary, the way he could find something compelling in a puddle reflecting the sky, or children playing with fallen leaves. In the 3 years since then, we've built a life together that feels more right than anything I've ever known. Tom's career has flourished, his work appearing in major magazines and exhibitions across the country. He balances commercial work that pays the bills with personal projects that fulfill his artistic vision, including a series documenting the lives of immigrant families in New York that won him significant acclaim last year. We've traveled together, exploring the coast of Maine, hiking in Colorado, spending a magical week in New Orleans, where Tom photographed the vibrant street life, while I sampled every beignet in the city. We've supported each other through professional challenges, celebrated successes, and created a home in our small but perfect apartment in Brooklyn. Tom was there for me during the most difficult period of my career, when the agency I worked for lost a major client, and I was afraid I would be let go. He encouraged me to use the crisis as an opportunity, helping me prepare a bold new campaign that ultimately saved the account and earned me a promotion. He stayed up late with me for weeks, bringing me coffee, listening to my ideas, and never once doubting my abilities. In turn, I supported him when a gallery owner tried to take advantage of him, attempting to claim excessive commission on his sales. I used my business knowledge to help him negotiate better terms and connected him with an attorney friend who specialized in artists' rights. Together, we've become a team that faces challenges head-on, each of us bringing our strengths to support the other. What I love most about Tom is his kindness. He volunteers teaching photography to underprivileged kids in the city, spending every Saturday morning showing them how to see the world through a different lens. The patience and respect he shows these children speaks volumes about the kind of man he is. He remembers everything from my coffee order, to the names of my college friends, to the anniversary of my grandmother's passing, when he always brings me yellow roses, her favorite. He listens, truly listens when I talk about my day, or my dreams, or my frustrations. He makes me laugh, challenging me to see the humor in difficult situations and never taking himself too seriously. We've discussed marriage, agreeing that we're heading in that direction, but not rushing. We've talked about children, both of us wanting to start a family in the next few years. We've even started looking at houses in New Jersey, thinking about trading our Brooklyn apartment for more space and a yard where future children could play. This Christmas was supposed to be a significant step in our journey together. After 3 years of building our relationship, it felt like the right time to integrate our lives more fully, to have Tom meet my family and become part of our traditions. We had declined invitations to spend the holidays with his family in Queens or with friends in the city. We had purchased non-refundable train tickets to Connecticut, wrapped carefully selected gifts, and I had even practiced making my mother's famous apple pie to surprise her. Tom was nervous about meeting my family, particularly my father, who I had described as somewhat traditional and reserved. He had bought a new sweater for the occasion, asked me countless questions about my family's interests so he could engage them in conversation, and even researched the best Connecticut wines to bring as a host gift. "I just want them to like me," he had said the week before as we finalized our plans. "They're important to you, so they're important to me." I had assured him they would love him just as I did. I truly believed it. After all, how could they not see the wonderful man I saw? How could they not welcome someone who made their daughter so happy? I could never have imagined the phone call that would change everything, revealing truths about my family that I had either never seen or had willfully ignored for far too long. The call came on a Tuesday evening. Tom and I were in our apartment finalizing our packing list for the trip. Christmas was just a week away, and we planned to stay with my parents for 5 days, arriving on the 23rd and leaving on the 28th. I was showing Tom the ugly Christmas sweater I had bought him as a joke when my phone rang, my father's name appearing on the screen. I answered with a cheerful, "Hi, Dad," expecting questions about our arrival time or dietary preferences for the holiday meals. Instead, there was a heavy silence before my father cleared his throat. "Allison," he said, his voice uncharacteristically hesitant, "there's been a change of plans for Christmas." My stomach dropped instantly. I sat down on the edge of our bed, the sweater still clutched in my free hand. "What do you mean, is everyone okay?" "Everyone's fine," he assured me quickly. "But Derek has expressed some concerns about having guests this year." I frowned, confused. "Guess Tom isn't a guest dad. He's my partner." Another uncomfortable pause followed. "Well, that's just it. Derek isn't comfortable with Tom joining us for Christmas." The words hit me like a physical blow. Tom, who had been sorting through ties across the room, looked up at me with concern, clearly seeing my expression change. "I don't understand," I said, my voice now tight. "Derek hasn't even met Tom. How can he be uncomfortable with someone he doesn't know?" My father's voice became defensive. "Your brother has his reasons, Allison. He feels that Christmas is for family and he wants to keep it that way." "Tom is my family now," I countered, anger beginning to rise. "We've been together for 3 years. This isn't some casual date I'm bringing home." "I understand that, but your brother has been going through a difficult time. His recent breakup has been hard on him, and he needs family support right now. He doesn't want to feel awkward around someone new." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Derek's comfort was being prioritized over mine, his recent breakup somehow more important than my 3-year relationship. "So, what exactly are you saying, Dad?" I demanded, though I already knew the answer. "I'm saying that it would be better if you came alone this year. Just family." The emphasis on family stung the clear implication that Tom wasn't included in that definition. I felt tears pricking at my eyes, a mixture of hurt and rage building in my chest. "And if I want Tom to come with me?" I asked, already knowing the answer. My father's voice hardened slightly. "Then perhaps it would be better if you made other plans this year." I couldn't speak for a moment, shocked by the ultimatum. Tom had moved closer now, his hand gently resting on my shoulder in concern. "You're banning my partner from Christmas because Derek doesn't want him there, because he's having a hard time with a breakup. Do you realize how ridiculous that sounds?" "It's not just about the breakup, Allison," my father said, his tone growing frustrated. "There are other considerations." "Like what?" I demanded. "It's complicated. Derek has his reasons, and as his family, we need to respect them." I felt like I was in some bizarre alternate reality. "And what about respecting me? What about my feelings?" "You've been away for 5 years," my father countered. "You've missed 5 Christmases. Derek has been here. He's a part of our everyday lives." The implication was clear. I had lost my place at the table by leaving, while Derek, who had never left, had more right to dictate the terms of our family gatherings. "So, this is punishment for moving away, for building my own life." "No one is punishing you, Allison," my father said with a sigh. "We just want a peaceful holiday. Is that too much to ask?" I looked at Tom, who was watching me with concern, completely unaware that he was being rejected by a family he had never even met. Something inside me hardened. "Yes, actually, it is too much to ask. You're asking me to choose between the man I love and a brother who apparently has some problem with him without even meeting him. That's not fair." "Life isn't always fair," my father replied, using the phrase he had often repeated throughout my childhood whenever I complained about some perceived injustice. "Sometimes we have to make difficult choices for the good of the family." "And Tom isn't family," I stated flatly. "I didn't say that." "You didn't have to." There was a long silence. When my father spoke again, his voice had that finality I remembered from childhood disagreements. "The invitation stands for you, Allison. Come home for Christmas. We miss you. But Tom will have to wait for another time." The conversation ended shortly after, with no resolution, and my heart feeling like it had been trampled. I sat in stunned silence after hanging up, trying to process what had just happened. Tom sat beside me, waiting patiently for me to explain. When I finally told him about the conversation, his face fell, but he quickly composed himself. "Maybe I shouldn't come," he offered. "I don't want to be the cause of family tension." His selflessness only made me angrier at my family. "No," I said firmly. "This is wrong. There's something else going on here, and I'm going to find out what it is." After the devastating call with my father, I needed answers. My mind was racing with confusion and hurt, unable to understand why Derek would object to Tom without even meeting him. I waited until the following morning, knowing my mother would be home alone while my father was at his dental practice. I called her cell phone directly, not wanting my father to answer the home line. She picked up on the third ring, her voice cautious, as if she already knew why I was calling. "Mom," I said, skipping our usual pleasantries. "What's really going on with this Christmas situation?" There was a pause before she sighed deeply. "Your father told me about your conversation. I'm sorry it happened that way, Allison." "That doesn't answer my question," I pressed. "Why does Derek have a problem with Tom? He's never even met him." My mother's voice lowered, though she was alone in the house. "It's complicated, sweetheart." "Stop saying that. Everyone keeps saying it's complicated, but no one will tell me what the actual issue is." I heard her moving, probably going to sit down in the living room, the squeak of her favorite armchair coming through the phone. "Derek has certain views," she finally said, choosing her words carefully. "What views? Mom, just say it." Another long pause followed. "He has concerns about Tom's background." The implication hit me like a ton of bricks. "You mean because Tom is Asian American?" My voice was barely a whisper, not wanting to believe what I was hearing. My mother didn't confirm it directly, but her response told me everything. "Derek worries about cultural differences. He thinks family holidays should be traditional." "Traditional?" I repeated, my voice rising. "What does that even mean? Tom was born in Queens. His family has been in America for 2 generations." I know," my mother said quickly. "I've told Derek that, but he's very set in his views." A memory suddenly surfaced, one I had pushed away. 3 years ago, before I met Tom, Derek had made comments about the foreign students at his university, complaining that they stuck to their own kind and didn't try to assimilate. I had called him out on it then, but he had laughed it off as just making observations. Had I missed the true nature of his observations? "So Derek is racist," I stated bluntly. "And instead of confronting him about his bigotry, you and Dad are enabling it by banning my partner from Christmas." "That's not fair, Allison. Your brother isn't racist. He just has traditional values." "Stop sugarcoating this." I snapped, my patience gone. "Discriminating against someone because of their race isn't traditional values. It's racism, plain and simple." My mother's voice became pleading. "Try to understand, Allison. Derek threatened not to come if Tom was there. He said he wouldn't be comfortable. What were we supposed to do?" "You were supposed to stand up for what's right. You were supposed to tell Derek that his prejudice isn't acceptable in this family." "It's not that simple." "It is that simple, Mom. It's incredibly simple. You choose basic human decency over bigotry." My mother was crying now, soft sniffles coming through the phone. "We didn't want to lose either of you for Christmas. We thought if we just had one normal holiday, maybe things could be worked out later." "By normal, you mean without my Asian American boyfriend," I clarified coldly. "Do you even hear yourself? That's not what I meant." "Then what did you mean? Because from where I'm standing, it sounds like you and Dad are choosing to support Derek's racism rather than standing up for me and the man I love." "Derek said he would refuse to come if Tom was there," my mother repeated, as if this explained everything. "He was very upset about it." "And I'm saying I refuse to come without Tom," I countered. "So now what? Who do you choose?" My mother didn't answer immediately, which was an answer in itself. The silence stretched between us, filled with unspoken truths. "I can't believe this," I finally said, my voice breaking. "I've spent 3 years telling Tom what a loving, accepting family I have. I've built him up for this Christmas, promising him warmth, and traditions and acceptance. And now I find out my own brother refuses to sit at the same table with him because of his race, and my parents are okay with that. We're not okay with it, Allison. We're just trying to keep the peace. Keeping the peace at the expense of doing what's right isn't peace, Mom. It's cowardice. I knew my words hurt her, but in that moment, I couldn't bring myself to care. The mother I thought I knew would never have allowed this situation to develop. The family I thought I had would never have chosen bigotry over love. Has Dad always felt this way too? Is that the real reason you both never made the effort to meet Tom all this time, despite my invitations for you to visit us in New York? No, Allison, that's not it at all, my mother protested. Your father and I have been busy, and New York is overwhelming for us. Overwhelming, I repeated flatly. Right. Please don't be like this, my mother pleaded. We love you. We want you home for Christmas. But not with the man I love. Not with the man I've built a life with. Not with the man I might marry someday. The word marry seemed to startle her. Mary, you never mentioned marriage before. Would it matter if I had? Would it change anything about this situation? Another telling silence. I have to go, Mom. I need to think about all this. Allison, please. I'll call you back when I've decided what to do about Christmas. I said, though in my heart I already knew. I couldn't go home now. Couldn't pretend everything was normal when the foundation of my relationship with my family had been revealed as so deeply flawed. As I hung up, I felt a profound sense of loss. Not just of the Christmas I had imagined, but of the family I thought I had. The loving, accepting people who had raised me to believe in equality and kindness were suddenly strangers, willing to accommodate prejudice rather than stand against it. The revelation left me reeling, questioning everything about my childhood, my relationship with my brother, and the values my parents had instilled in me. Had it all been a facade? Or had I simply been blind to what was there all along? After the devastating conversation with my mother, I felt like I needed to go straight to the source. Derek had always been direct, sometimes brutally so, and I wanted to hear from him exactly what his issue was with Tom. No more beating around the bush, no more, it's complicated. I deserved the truth no matter how painful. I waited until evening, knowing Derek would be home from work. My hands were shaking as I dialed his number, a mixture of anger and dread coursing through me. Part of me still hoped there was some misunderstanding that my mother had exaggerated or misinterpreted Derek's objections. He answered on the fourth ring, sounding surprised to hear from me. Allison, what's up? I took a deep breath. We need to talk about Christmas, Derek. There was a pause, then a sigh. Dad told you. Yes, Dad told me. And Mom filled in some details. Now I want to hear directly from you why you don't want my boyfriend at our family Christmas. Derek's voice took on a defensive edge. Look, it's nothing personal against him specifically. It feels pretty personal, I countered, especially since you've never even met him. I just think Christmas should be for family, that's all. No outsiders. Tom isn't an outsider. He's the man I've been with for 3 years, the man I live with, the man I might marry someday. Derek scoffed. Marry? Seriously, Allison. The dismissive tone ignited my anger. Yes, seriously. Why is that so hard to believe? Because he's not. Derek stopped himself. Not what, Derek, not white, is that what you were going to say? The silence on the other end confirmed my worst fears. Jesus, Derek, I knew you could be ignorant sometimes, but I never thought you were a full-blown racist. I'm not racist, he snapped back. I just think people should stick with their own kind. It makes things easier for everyone. I was momentarily speechless, the blatant prejudice stunning me. Their own kind? Do you even hear yourself? This isn't the 1950s. Call it whatever you want, Derek said stubbornly. I'm entitled to my opinion, and I don't want to spend my Christmas pretending to be comfortable with your lifestyle choices. Lifestyle choices, being with someone I love who happens to be Asian American, is a lifestyle choice now. You know what I mean, Allison? You've always had to be different, always had to push boundaries. Moving to New York, working in advertising, and now this. It's like you're deliberately trying to set yourself apart from this family. The accusation stung, revealing a resentment I hadn't realized was there. That's what this is really about, isn't it? You're jealous that I left, that I built my own life instead of staying stuck in Connecticut like you. Stuck. Derek's voice rose. I'm not stuck. I chose to stay close to family because family matters to me. Unlike you, who couldn't wait to run off to the big city and forget where you came from. I never forgot where I came from. I just wanted something different for myself. Yeah, well, your something different doesn't need to invade our family traditions. Christmas has always been a certain way, and I don't see why we need to change it to accommodate your exotic boyfriend. The word exotic made my blood boil. Tom is a photographer from Queens, Derek, not some alien species, and traditions evolve. Families grow and change. Not this family, he said firmly. Dad agrees with me, by the way. He might not say it as directly as I do, but he's uncomfortable too. This new revelation hit me hard. Dad told you he doesn't want Tom there either, because of his race. Derek backpedaled slightly. He didn't say it in those exact words, but I could tell he was relieved when I brought up my concerns. He's old school, you know that. I thought about all the times our father had made offhand comments about immigrants or minorities, comments I had dismissed as generational ignorance rather than true prejudice. Had I been making excuses for racism all along? Does Mom feel the same way? I asked, dreading the answer. Mom goes along with what Dad thinks, you know that, Derek said dismissively. She wouldn't rock the boat. The image of my mother, who had taught kindergarten to children of all backgrounds, harboring or even tacitly accepting racist views, was almost more than I could bear. I can't believe this is happening, I said, my voice hollow. I can't believe my own family would reject someone I love without even meeting him based solely on his ethnicity. Don't be so dramatic, Allison. Nobody's rejecting anyone. We're just asking for one day to be about family without having to navigate cultural differences and awkward conversations. The only person making things awkward is you, Derek, with your backwards, prejudiced attitudes. Think whatever you want about me, he said, his voice hardening. But I'm not changing my mind. Either come alone or don't come. It's your choice. Something in me snapped at his ultimatum. You know what, Derek, you're right about one thing. It is my choice. And I choose Tom. I choose love over hate. I choose moving forward over being stuck in the past with your bigotry. Fine, he spat. Stay in New York with your boyfriend. See if I care. I will. And you know what else I feel sorry for you, Derek? Sorry that you're so small-minded and fearful that you can't even share a Christmas dinner with someone different from yourself. You're missing out on knowing an amazing person because of your prejudice. Save your pity, he retorted. I don't need it. No, what you need is to grow up and enter the 21st century. But I'm not going to wait around for that to happen. Goodbye, Derek. I hung up before he could respond, my hands shaking with rage and grief. The conversation had confirmed my worst fears, and then some. This wasn't a misunderstanding or a temporary family disagreement. This was a fundamental divide in values, a revelation that the people I loved most in the world were capable of a type of prejudice I found abhorrent. The brother I had idolized as a child, taught to ride a bike, defended against bullies, and shared my deepest secrets with, was now a stranger to me, a stranger whose values were so at odds with my own that I couldn't imagine how we would ever bridge the gap. I sat in shocked silence after ending the call, trying to process the ugly truth that had been revealed. My family, the people who were supposed to love me unconditionally, had chosen to support bigotry over accepting the man I loved. They had drawn a line in the sand, never imagining I would choose to stand on the other side of it. But they had underestimated me, and they had underestimated the strength of my love for Tom. They had forced a choice I never wanted to make, never should have had to make. And in doing so, they had revealed themselves to be very different people than I had believed them to be. The grief of this realization was overwhelming, a loss as profound as a death. In a way, something had died, the family. I thought I had the childhood memories I had cherished, all now tainted by the knowledge of what lay beneath the surface. After the confrontation with Derek, I felt completely drained, sitting in our Brooklyn apartment with the phone still clutched in my hand. Tom found me there, tears streaming down my face. He had given me privacy for the call, but had heard enough to know it hadn't gone well. Without a word, he sat beside me and pulled me into his arms. For several minutes, we just stayed like that, his steady heartbeat against my ear, a reminder that I wasn't alone, even if my family had chosen to exclude us. "I'm so sorry," I finally whispered, pulling back to look at him. "I never thought my family would be like this. I never saw it before." Tom wiped a tear from my cheek with his thumb. "It's not your fault, Allison. You can't control how other people think or feel, even when they're family." "But I should have known," I insisted. Looking back, there were signs. Comments my father made, things Derek said that I dismissed or excused. I was blind to it because I didn't want to see it. Tom shook his head. "We all want to think the best of the people we love. That's not a failing, it's being human." His kindness and understanding in the face of such rejection only made me love him more, and made my family's behavior seem all the more appalling by comparison. "You should go without me," Tom suggested quietly. "It's Christmas, and they're still your family. I don't want to be the reason you miss spending the holidays with them." I stared at him in disbelief. "No, absolutely not. I won't reward their behavior by showing up alone. That would be saying their prejudice is acceptable, and it's not." "But they're your family," he repeated. "And families are complicated. Maybe in time they'll come around." I took his hands in mine, looking directly into his eyes. "You are my family too, Tom. And right now, you're the only one showing me what family is supposed to be about: unconditional love and acceptance." The enormity of what had happened was still sinking in. I had essentially been given an ultimatum to choose between my blood relations and the man I loved. It was a choice I never thought I'd have to make, especially not over something as fundamental as respecting another human being, regardless of their race. As the shock began to wear off, a sense of clarity emerged. This wasn't just about Christmas. This was about standing up for what I believed in, for the relationship I had built with Tom, and for the future we hoped to create together. I opened my laptop and began typing, my fingers flying over the keyboard as words poured out of me. Tom watched curiously. "What are you doing?" "Writing an email," I said, determination replacing despair. "To all of them. My father, mother, and Derek. I need to make my position absolutely clear." The email took shape quickly, my thoughts crystallizing as I wrote, "Dear Dad, Mom, and Derek. After my conversations with each of you, I need to make something clear. I will not be coming home for Christmas without Tom. I cannot and will not participate in excluding someone I love because of prejudice. For 3 years, I have built a life with a man who is kind, intelligent, loving, and supportive. A man who is willing to sacrifice his own holiday joy so I wouldn't miss time with my family, even after learning how they feel about him. That is the measure of his character. I have spent years telling Tom about the warm, loving family I grew up in. I promised him tradition's acceptance and love. Instead, I've discovered that the family I thought I had doesn't exist. In its place is a family willing to enable prejudice rather than confront it, willing to exclude rather than embrace. I always thought our family stood for love, acceptance, and doing what's right even when it's difficult. I was wrong. When faced with a choice between standing up against bigotry or accommodating it for the sake of peace, you chose the latter. That is not the family I thought I knew. This Christmas, Tom and I will celebrate with people who accept us both without conditions or prejudice. We will create new traditions built on love and respect. Maybe someday you'll be ready to be part of that. Until then, I need to stand firm in my values, even if it means standing apart from you. I love you all, but I cannot pretend this situation is acceptable. It's not about different opinions or traditional values. It's about basic human dignity and respect. Tom deserves better. And honestly, so do I. Allison. I read it over once, then hit send before I could second-guess myself. Tom read it over my shoulder, his hand squeezing mine when he finished. "Are you sure about this?" he asked softly. "It's a big step." I nodded, feeling a strange mixture of sadness and liberation. I've never been more sure of anything. This is where I draw the line. With that decision made, I turned to practical matters. We need to make new plans for Christmas. I refuse to let their narrow-mindedness ruin our holiday. I pulled out my phone and called my closest friend from college, Maya, who lived in Manhattan with her husband. They had invited us for Christmas dinner before an offer we had declined in favor of my family plans. I explained the situation briefly, trying to keep my voice steady. "Of course you can come," Maya said instantly. "Both of you will have a full house with my cousins visiting, but the more the merrier. And Allison, your family's loss is our gain. Tom sounds wonderful." After hanging up, I felt a weight lifting. We would have a Christmas after all, surrounded by people who welcomed us both with open arms. "I'll cancel our train tickets," Tom offered. "And we can use that money to get something special for Maya and her husband as a thank you." As we began reshaping our holiday plans, a strange thing happened. The grief and hurt began to transform into something else, a sense of empowerment. For the first time in my life, I was taking a stand against injustice within my own family, refusing to compromise my values for the sake of keeping the peace. It wasn't the Christmas I had imagined, but perhaps it would be something better, more authentic, more aligned with who I truly was, and the life Tom and I were building together. A life where love trumped prejudice, where standing up for what was right mattered more than tradition for tradition's sake. That evening, Tom and I sat on our small balcony, looking out at the Brooklyn skyline as darkness fell. His arm was around me, and despite everything, I felt a sense of peace. "I'm proud of you," he said quietly. "Standing up to family is one of the hardest things to do." I leaned against him, drawing strength from his presence. "I just keep thinking about our future. What if we have children someday? I couldn't bear for them to experience that kind of rejection from their own grandparents and uncle." Tom nodded thoughtfully. "Family is complicated for everyone. My parents had their own struggles accepting some of my choices, but they came around because their love for me was stronger than their preconceptions." "Do you think my family will ever come around?" I asked, voicing the fear that had been lingering beneath the surface. I don't know, he answered honestly. But what I do know is that whatever happens, we'll face it together. And the family we create, whether it's just the two of us or includes children someday, will be built on acceptance and love. His words were exactly what I needed to hear. Whatever came next, whatever fallout from my email awaited me, I wasn't facing it alone. In standing up for Tom, I had also stood up for myself for the life I wanted and the values I truly believed in. As the city lights twinkled around us, I felt something new taking root alongside the pain, something that felt remarkably like hope. Christmas morning dawned clear and cold in New York City. Instead of waking up in my childhood bedroom in Connecticut, I opened my eyes in our Brooklyn apartment, the winter sunlight streaming through the windows. Tom was still asleep beside me, his face peaceful, untroubled by the family drama that had consumed the past week. In the days following my email, the responses had been telling. My mother had sent a tearful voicemail begging me to reconsider, saying we could work things out if I would just come home alone this one time. My father had sent a terse text message, "You're being unreasonable. Family should come first." Derek hadn't responded at all. None of them had acknowledged the real issue, the prejudice at the heart of the conflict. None of them had apologized or shown any sign of reconsidering their stance. It had only confirmed that I'd made the right decision, painful as it was. Tom stirred beside me, his eyes opening slowly as he reached for my hand. "Merry Christmas," he murmured. "Merry Christmas." I replied, trying to infuse the words with genuine warmth despite the heaviness in my heart. He must have seen the shadow of sadness in my eyes. "Are you okay?" I considered the question honestly. "Not entirely, but I will be." We spent the morning exchanging gifts in our apartment, the small artificial tree we had decorated together twinkling with multicolored lights. Tom had bought me a beautiful leather journal with my initials embossed on the cover, knowing my love for writing down my thoughts. I had gotten him a vintage camera he had been eyeing for months, saved for by taking on extra projects at work. The joy of giving to each other, of seeing the appreciation in each other's eyes, helped ease the ache of missing my family's traditional Christmas morning. We made coffee and cinnamon rolls, played holiday music, and tried to create our own small bubble of Christmas cheer. In the afternoon, we took the subway to Manhattan for dinner at Maya's apartment. The contrast between the quiet morning and the boisterous gathering couldn't have been more striking. Maya's home was bursting with people, laughter, music, and amazing smells from the kitchen, where her husband, an amateur chef, was putting final touches on an impressive feast. Maya hugged me fiercely when we arrived. "I'm so sorry about your family," she whispered in my ear. "But I'm so glad you're here with us." What struck me most about the gathering was the diversity of faces around the table. Maya's family had roots in India, her husband was Irish-American, and their friends represented a tapestry of backgrounds, races, and cultures. There were conversations in multiple languages, dishes from various traditions, and a sense of genuine celebration that transcended any single cultural expression of Christmas. Tom fit in immediately, charming Maya's cousins with stories of his photography adventures and offering to take family portraits after dinner. No one questioned his presence or made him feel anything less than completely welcome. No one saw him as other or different, or any of the labels my family had implicitly placed on him. Watching him laugh with Maya's husband about their shared love of basketball, I felt a surge of anger at what my family was missing, at what they had chosen to reject, without even giving him a chance. Their loss was immeasurable and entirely self-inflicted. After dinner, my phone buzzed with a text message. I was surprised to see my mother's name on the screen. She had sent a photo of our family dinner table in Connecticut, everyone wearing paper crowns from Christmas crackers, forced smiles on their faces. Her message read, "Wish you were here. It's not the same without you." I stared at the image, noting the empty chair that would have been mine. Just mine. There was no place set for Tom, no acknowledgement that I should have been there with my partner. Even in her attempt to reach out, my mother was reinforcing the exclusion that had driven me away. I put my phone away without responding, rejoining the party where Tom was now showing Maya's teenage niece how to adjust settings on her new camera, his patience and kindness evident in every interaction. This was where we belonged today, with people who saw us both as worthy of respect and inclusion. Later that night, back in our apartment, exhausted but content from the day's festivities, I found myself crying unexpectedly as we prepared for bed. Tom held me without questions, understanding the complicated emotions the day had brought up. "I miss them," I admitted through tears. "Even knowing what they did, what they believe, I still miss them. Is that crazy?" "It's not crazy at all," Tom assured me. "They're your family. You've loved them your whole life. That doesn't just disappear overnight, even when they've hurt you deeply." His wisdom and empathy only underscored what my family had rejected, the quality of person they had judged without knowing. "I keep hoping they'll call and say they've realized their mistake," I confessed, "that they want to meet you to make things right." Tom stroked my hair gently. "Maybe they will in time. People can change, Allison. Not everyone does, but it's possible." "And if they don't?" The question had been haunting me. "Then we keep building our life together, surrounding ourselves with people who value us both. We create our own family defined by love and acceptance rather than blood." As I drifted off to sleep that night, I realized Tom was right. Family wasn't just about DNA or shared history. It was about who stood by you, who accepted you fully, who made space for the people you loved. By that definition, the people we had spent Christmas with were more family to us than those connected to me by blood. It was a painful realization, but also a liberating one. I had spent so many years trying to fit into my family's expectations, making myself smaller to avoid rocking the boat. Now I was finally standing tall in my full identity, with the man I loved beside me, even if it meant standing apart from my blood relations. That night, I dreamed of future Christmases, of a home filled with love and acceptance of children who would never know the sting of rejection because of who they were or who they loved. It wasn't the future I had once imagined, but it was becoming the future I now wanted more than anything. 3 weeks after Christmas, I received a text message I wasn't expecting. My mother was coming to New York for a teachers' conference and wanted to meet for coffee. Just her no mention of my father or Derek. I showed the message to Tom. "What do you think?" I asked, unsure how to feel about this potential olive branch. Tom considered it thoughtfully. "I think you should hear what she has to say. Whatever happens, at least you'll know you gave her a chance." After some reflection, I agreed to meet her at a cafe near my office. When the day came, I arrived early, a bundle of nerves, as I waited at a small table by the window. When she walked in, I was struck by how tired she looked, the lines around her eyes deeper than I remembered. "Allison," she said, her voice thick with emotion as she embraced me. I returned the hug stiffly, still guarded after everything that had happened. Once we had ordered our coffee, an uncomfortable silence fell between us. Finally, my mother spoke. "I want to apologize," she said, her eyes fixed on her cup. "What happened at Christmas was wrong. The way we treated you and Tom was inexcusable." I hadn't expected such a direct acknowledgement. "Thank you for saying that." She looked up at me, tears in her eyes. "After you sent that email, I couldn't stop thinking about what you said. about enabling prejudice rather than confronting it, about standing up for what's right even when it's difficult. And I prompted, not willing to make this easy for her. And you were right. I failed you, Allison. I failed as a mother by not standing up for you and Tom. I failed as a human being by allowing that kind of prejudice to go unchallenged in our family. Her words were everything I had wanted to hear, but I remained cautious. What about Dad and Derek? Do they feel the same way? My mother's expression told me everything before she even spoke. Your father is struggling. He's from a different generation with different views. And Derek, she sighed. Derek is very stubborn. Neither of them knows I'm here today. I appreciated her honesty, if not the situation it described. So nothing has really changed. I've changed, she said firmly. And that's a start. I want to meet Tom Allison. I want to know the man my daughter loves regardless of what your father and brother think. The offer surprised me. You'd go against Dad's wishes? She nodded, a new resolve in her expression. For too long, I've been the peacekeeper going along with things I knew weren't right to avoid conflict. Watching you stand your ground, even when it meant being apart from us at Christmas, made me realize how weak I've been. Her admission touched me deeply. It's never too late to change, Mom. I know, and I'd like to start by having dinner with you and Tom while I'm in the city. If he's willing, that is. I would completely understand if he wants nothing to do with me after how we treated him. I thought about Tom's inherent kindness, his capacity for forgiveness. I think he'd be willing, but I need to know this isn't just about appeasing me. This is about recognizing a fundamental wrong in how our family thinks and behaves. It is, she assured me. I've been doing a lot of reading these past weeks trying to educate myself. I've realized how many unconscious biases I've carried, how many times I've stayed silent when I should have spoken up. I'm not proud of who I've been, Allison, but I'm trying to be better. We talked for over an hour, my mother sharing her own journey of realization, the arguments she'd had with my father and Derek since Christmas, and her determination to stand her ground, even if it created tension in her marriage. For the first time in my adult life, I saw my mother, not just as a parent, but as a woman, finding her own voice, her own moral compass. That evening, Tom and my mother met for dinner at our favorite Thai restaurant. Initially awkward, the evening gradually warmed as my mother made genuine efforts to know Tom, asking about his photography, his family, his dreams for the future. By dessert, they were laughing together over shared stories, finding common ground in their love of classic films and gardening. As we walked my mother to her hotel afterward, she hugged Tom goodbye with real affection. Thank you for making my daughter so happy, she said, and for giving me a chance today. Family is important to Allison, Tom replied. Which makes you important to me. After she had gone inside, Tom and I walked home hand in hand through the winter night, the city lights reflecting off patches of snow. Your mom is trying, Tom observed. That's more than many people do when confronted with their biases. I nodded, feeling a glimmer of hope I hadn't expected. 1 down, 2 to go. Tom squeezed my hand. Progress isn't always linear, and it isn't always complete. But it's still progress. In the months that followed, my relationship with my mother deepened in ways I hadn't thought possible. She visited us regularly, each time growing more comfortable with Tom and the diverse community of friends we introduced her to. She began challenging my father and Derek's views at home, no longer willing to be a silent enabler of prejudice. My father remained distant, occasionally sending stiff text messages that carefully avoided any mention of Tom or what had happened at Christmas. Derek didn't contact me at all. The rift was painful, but it was a pain I could bear knowing I had stood by my principles and the man I loved. The journey of healing wasn't quick or easy. There were days I missed my family, desperately questioned my decisions, and wondered if permanent estrangement was the price I would pay for standing against prejudice. But those moments became fewer as I built a life surrounded by people who accepted Tom and me without reservation or condition. In time, I came to understand that what happened with my family wasn't just about them or Tom or even me. It was about the larger struggle for acceptance and equality that so many face, the difficult choices people make when confronted with prejudice from those they love, and the courage it takes to stand firm in one's values even when the cost is high. I learned that family can be defined in many ways, that love without acceptance isn't really love at all, and that sometimes the hardest thing and the right thing are the same. Most importantly, I learned that standing up for what is right, even when it means standing alone, is never a mistake. This Christmas taught me that sometimes, when we lose what we thought we needed, we find what we truly deserve. Relationships built on mutual respect, communities that celebrate difference rather than fear it, and the freedom to be fully ourselves, loving who we choose without apology or compromise. Have you ever had to choose between someone you love and your family's expectations? What would you have done in my situation? Let me know in the comments below, and if this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear that. Standing up for love is always the right choice. Thank you for listening to my story. And remember that sometimes the family we create matters more than the family we're born into.